Hey folks and James Bond fans, this is Greenie, big James Bond fan myself, and I wanted to do a review of one of La La Land Records' releases of James Bond scores that they've been doing. They've been doing a wonderful job thus far, remastering, expanding. I mean, it's just been bliss for someone like me who's a big Bond score fan. And I go way back with those, feeling like I got shortchanged with very little music from like Thunderball or Diamonds Are Forever, and especially Moonraker. All you Bond fans know, when those soundtracks came out, we got very little of some of the best stuff that John Barry or whichever composer had written. So I wanted to give my review, and I'm going to start with the, not in order of how they've been releasing them, but I want to start with one they did late last year. It was released in October of 2024, and they had done a 60th anniversary of Goldfinger. Now, in the timeline order of Bond films, that would be the first that they've tackled. And I know everybody has said that the tapes for Dr. No, From Russia with Love and Goldfinger are lost. So this was not an expanded score, but it was remastered, and I will say it was remastered very, very well. So I'm going to go into that, but I want to give a little bit of history first on the Goldfinger soundtrack itself. Now, I had a really cheesy CD version of it in the mid-90s. I don't know, it was one of those Emmy Thorne CDs. I don't know. It was had a white back to it. Most of my Bond scores to that point were like that were from the old days, and it was a CD. It was analog, didn't sound very well, and it was just Goldfinger as it was. Around 1992, for the 30th anniversary of the Bond franchise, they released this CD here, and I've had it all these years. I'm trying not to get a glare on it, but it's James Bond 30-year anniversary, and it's a 2-disc set, and the first disc is essentially remastered versions of the Bond songs all the way up until License to Kill from Gladys Knight, because that was the last Bond film that had been made when this came out. Now, disc 2 was like a special thing. It had different things on it, but a good, almost half of it, of the second disc, is expanded stuff from Goldfinger. That being the Anthony Newley version of Goldfinger that he sang that wasn't used, and then the 4 tracks that we know were found and added later on, which is Pussy Galore's Flying Circus, Golden Girl, Death of Tilly, and the Laser Beam. So that all kind of came out in 1992 with this release. So given that, in 2003, when they were doing some expansions, they were trying to expand some of them with the budget they had. They could only keep them on 1 disc, so they expanded some and, some not. But Goldfinger, again, because of, missing cues and everything, what they did was they released this version. This is the 2003 version, and it's remastered, and it's the same exact soundtrack as I had from the mid-90s, or early 90s, with the 4 tracks added in. Doesn't have the Anthony Newley version, but has the 4 tracks I mentioned added in, and it's remastered, and it's not bad, So, that brings us up to last year, when La La Land went for giving us the gold, pun intended, and released their version here of the 60th anniversary of Goldfinger. And, one thing, I gotta say this as an aside, La La Land, I love how they do their Bond soundtracks, because, they try to put them in the order they are in the film order. And I'm big on that. I'm OCD as it is, But I will tell you, I am a big fan of having the score in the order of the movie, because I can play the movie along as I'm listening to the music. So that's what they did. It's Goldfinger. But their remastering, people, is wonderful. It's just, I have 5.1 surround hooked up to my laptop down here in the man cave. And I will tell you, it just, you hear instruments you never heard before. you know, it's so bright and clean and just bliss as a Bond fan who loves, you know, the scores. You know, John Barry's best, some of, you know, his best work here. You know, and then there's the additional music, which is, of course, the, I'm going to grab a flashlight here, because my lighting's not so well, as you can tell. The Goldfinger, there's an instrumental version, and then the Anthony Newley version's brought back for this. And then, I think, to me, the gold on this is a different version of Shirley Bassey singing it. It's the same music, but it's a different vocal track. And Shirley Bassey, you know that last note that she's infamous for holding out? He loves gold. She holds it till the song actually ends. You know, in the real version that we know, she stops right before those last couple of notes, which is long enough. In this version, she holds it out until the song is over, even longer. So I can see why she was winded, you know. But it's a you know, worth the price of admission alone for me. Now, that brings me to the next part of Goldfinger, and that's the missing cues. You know, a lot of people, and if you're a completist like me, you know, you want the missing cues. You know, you want it at its as best as it can be, as complete as it can be. So what I'd found was, and some of you may have found this yourself, on YouTube there is a guy named Pike Bishop who has been doing, on his own, re-recording missing cues for certain Bond films. I think he did a missing track for something from For Your Eyes Only. He did a couple for Moonraker before that expanded score came out recently, you know. But he focused on Goldfinger, and he did every missing cue of Goldfinger. And I got to tell you, folks, it's unbelievable. It's fantastic. I don't know what kind of a keyboard or what kind of a MIDI or computer he's using, but it's so close to John Barry's music that I can't. I couldn't even put it into place. But it's satisfying to me. Let's put it that way. If we're not going to get the cues that should be there that are because the tapes are missing, I will certainly accept this as the replacement of it. So I managed to get a hold of the missing tracks that he had done, and I made my own playlist of it in movie order, and it just works to me. With Pike Bishop's music integrated with La La Land's release and me making my own, I made my own CD of it. And then I made my own playlist for my laptop when I'm sitting at home in the man cave listening to it. It's just, to me, it's complete now. I accept this as the definitive, final, expanded, and complete Goldfinger. And if you want, and I have my CD of it right here, I'm going to give you some highlights. Okay, so Bond back in action again, of course. But then remember there's that nightclub source music that almost sounds like the James Bond theme when the dancer's going. His version, I swear to God, it just sounds like the movie. And it feels good to have it there right after he ends his mission and slips into his tuxedo out of the wetsuit, you know. And then it's the song Goldfinger. Now, Into Miami was on the soundtrack, but that little extra bit of music where Felix is looking at the mermaidish girl in the fish tank. I mean, in the swimming pool, rather. That piece of music's missing, and he recreated it wonderfully. A lot of the missing music for Goldfinger are just short cues. I will say that. So what else? So enter Goldfinger. That's where he's like, "Where is our man?" Felix points at him, and you hear the Goldfinger theme, and it's like 10 seconds. Then he goes plays his game of gin. And then the next is The Best Place in Town, and that's where Bond is, you know, making out with Shirley Eaton, of course. And then the Golden Girl, and then we get into like the golf game, the golf loss, Odd Job's hat. That music that's there sounds just like it. I'm telling you, and that's Pike Bishop. Alpine Drive, RX Factory, Death of Tilly. Now, remember Bond crashes his car because of the mirror. That piece of music, I swear, again, Pike Bishop. I can't speak enough about this guy's dedication and contribution to the Goldfinger score. When you put it in with the rest of the La La Land release, or any release of Goldfinger, it just works. It just works. You know, so the car crash is there, then it's the laser beam. Bathroom spying, you know, Miley's looking in on the plane. That's there. Pussy Gallore's Flying Circus. RX Stud, that kind of hillbilly banjo music is there. You know, while Felix and his buddy are like kind of spying in on how James is doing. It sounds just like it, folks. You guys gotta. I'm getting worked up now because it makes me want to listen to this. But I gotta tell you, I mean, it's just, you know, this to me is the complete score. I mean, you know, I could go through the rest, but I mean, the car crush, meeting with Goldfinger. You know, Bond meets with Goldfinger. They go over the plan while he's drinking his mid julep. The late Mr. Solo and Bond and Pussy. That's when the car comes back. It's crushed. Bond and Pussy go into the barn. Then it goes into barn wrestling. Bloop, bloop. Sounds just like it. And it's good to hear it there. And then that takes us to like the climax of the film. The Fort Knox stuff. Arrival of the bomb. And then there's that reprise of the Odd Job music. Where Bond, you know, right before Bond electrocutes Odd Job, that music kind of comes back. And that's there. The countdown. And then Lunch at the White House. Bloom, bloom, bloom. You know, remember that? That's there. Death of Goldfinger, then the end titles. So, you know, and then I had room left, so I stuck like the other extras on there. The alternate Shirley Bassey vocal version, and Anthony Newley's version. And then a wonderful instrumental of Goldfinger that's on like all the releases. So, yeah. So that's my review, folks. I just wanted to mention, you know, Goldfinger as in its history of like the 4 tracks being found with the Anthony Newley version in the early 90s. The 2003 remaster was good, but La La Land put out the definitive version of what they could. And I'm here to tell you, if you want even more and you believe in Pike Bishop, check his music out and make your own playlist, folks, and, you know, you'll have the entire score. That is, you know, that's all I'm going to say about that. So it's up to you to check it out. So that's all for now. I'm gonna review another La La Land Bond soundtrack soon. So stay tuned for my next video. I haven't planned which one yet. I was gonna say Greenie returns in La La Land's release of, and have it ready, but all I'm gonna say is Greenie will return, since Bond films started doing that when they didn't know what the next title was going to be. So be sure to subscribe to my channel. I have different Bond things on there. I have a lot of everything on my channel. I've been YouTubing for 20 years. I have a mix of short films, music, recordings, you name it. Short films, comedies. My friend and I do the variety show, which is kind of like our little cheap SNL sketch show that we've done for the last 20 years. So, you know, if you like what you see here, check into some of my other stuff and subscribe. And I'll keep the Bond videos going if you like them too, because I am a huge Bond fan and have been wanting to put more Bond reviews on here. And the La La Land releases, I hope they keep them going, folks, because we got more to do. And they've been knocking them out of the park. So given that, you know, after you subscribe, hey, tell me what your thoughts are on this video. Let me know if you've checked out the Pike Bishop music and what you think of it. If you think it fits in with the other music to make it a complete score. And let me know so far what your favorite La La Land release has been, or what your favorite Bond soundtrack is. I'd love to get some feedback. So drop me a line. This is Greenie signing off. Till next time.